Assalamu alaikum, Khawateen wa Hazrat. Welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge. Pakistan will be hosting the 23rd meeting of Council of Heads of Government of SCO on 15th and 16th October. As you all know, Pakistan joined the SCO in 2017 along with India. SCO is the basic main objective of SCO as defined in their charter is to strengthen political security and economic cooperation among the member states. Presently it has 10 member states. Belarus was the last country which joined SCO in last July in Astana. There are 14 dialogue partners including Turkey and Saudi Arabia. Presently, this SCO grouping, it represents about 80% of the Eurasian landmass, 40% of the global population, and nearly 30% of global GDP. To discuss various aspects of SCO, its meeting in Pakistan, we have with us a very special guest, Mr. Salman Bashir. He, and of course all know, is an ace diplomat, Pakistan's former foreign secretary. He was our ambassador in Beijing, in Netherlands, and our high commissioner in New Delhi. Sir, welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Joining me in this discussion is Ambassador Riaz Bukhari.
Thank you.
Sir, Belarus joined SCO in July this year. Now, the organization, which started basically as a pure regional grouping, is now expanding its geographic and geopolitical reach. Belarus is the first exclusively European country to join SCO. Now, how do you see this? The grouping's global ambitions, are they widening? And is its weight increasing in international politics?
I think it is certainly increasing in international politics, but basically I was in China 2005 to 2008. And at that time, I kept on hearing from our hosts the Euro-Asia land bridge project, you know. They were in the process of building these trades and routes to Europe. So I think to say that this is confined to Asia is probably it started like that, but I mean with Russia and Belarus, it's already its reach is much beyond Asia now.
So on the other hand, Turkey is a dialogue partner, and it wishes to join this grouping as a permanent member. Saudi Arabia is there, UAE is there. They've all expressed the wish to join this. And there are African countries also want to join this.
I think this is a popular organization in that sense. You know, I mean, countries, irrespective, the point is that multilateralism has its pros and cons, but for these regional organizations now taking shape, it is very important that they have the applause and the acclaim and they perform. Started from Shanghai 5, as you know.
Yes, sir.
It's been dubbed as a Asian NATO, which it's not. Basically, it's counter-terror. It's also a forum for what is called the BRI, the Chinese terminology. But basically, what is BRI? BRI is a platform for mutually beneficial cooperation among states. So this is also very much economic and cooperation and trade is part of that. So I think SCO has a great future ahead.
Yes.
Thank you. Welcome, sir. Welcome to the Ambassador's Lounge.
Thank you.
Sir, the Western media has been criticizing the SCO as a platform to flaunt US-led international order. Do you see SCO on a collision course with the West?
No, I don't think it's on a collision course. I mean, we've seen the propaganda against the SCO. And as I said, they love to call it the Asian NATO, and they use all sort of these notions. but it's basically a benign organization in that sense. I hope you understand. Benign in the sense that it's basically positive, basically for cooperation. And I think this propaganda to see everything in the context of the so-called Cold War between US and China is probably wrong. And I think, like I know the Chinese have a very special inclination, that is peaceful cooperation. And they have reached out to Africa, to Asian other countries, and to even to European countries and Latin America in this regard. So from the Chinese point of view, it's a perfect fit for their own efforts at creating a more equitable global order. I think it's good that the Russians are also cooperating. And for Pakistan, of course, it's very beneficial to be part of such a grouping.
Furthering this argument, there's also an argument that this grouping is being used to further Chinese and Russian interests, particularly keeping in view the present scenario, in the international scenario.
Yeah, this is the classical thinking, about Central Asia being the center of the world, and whoever controls Central Asia controls the world. I mean, that's the Mackinder theory or some theory, about that. So it's an old thought. I think it has got no reality. Peaceful cooperation across Europe and Asia is something good, and SCO, so far as it fulfills that objective, is doing the right thing.
ये पाकिस्तान में जो 23rd मीटिंग हो रही है heads of governments की, how significant is it for the diplomacy of our country?
I think it's quite significant. I mean, we have unfortunately been in a bit of a soup for the last few years. The last big conference that took place was the OIC extraordinary session on Afghanistan. And it's good that we are holding the SCO heads of government meeting in Islamabad. It will provide an opportunity for Pakistan to, one, show that it's a normal country, that it has despite the challenges at home, it has the right ambitions, and therefore I think it's good for our diplomacy.
Thank you. Sir, the invitations have been extended to all member states, observer states, for participation in the meeting, in October next. But there is, lot of discussion regarding Prime Minister Modi's participation in the event. But if we see the past, practice, we don't see him attending such, head of government's meeting in the member states. So how do you see and how do you view the Indian response to this invitation which we have extended, and why media is giving so much coverage on Prime Minister Modi's participation in the event?
Well, I don't know why media is giving that sort of impression that, it's a make or break in terms of Pakistan India.
Yeah.
If Modi comes, then it's a make, and if he doesn't come, then it's a break. But I think, I personally think that the participation of Prime Minister Modi is not on the offing. And I don't know at what level. I don't think that the Indians have reacted to our invitation. We don't know what level they will participate. But as you know, our former Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto visited Goa for a meeting. So I think the Indian participation should take place. You're right, they have two forums, the head of government and the head of state. In a parliamentary democracy, of course, it is for the Prime Minister to participate, even in the head of state. So maybe he will attend the head of state and not the head of government.
So, after UNO, SCO is the only organization which has 4 nuclear members, nuclear states. two permanent members of United Nations Security Council, one aspiring to be, and it has deep differences with Pakistan. I read somewhere that when the question of according approval to Pakistan and India in this grouping, two countries, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, they had concerns that these two countries will bring in their differences, which are quite acute, in the organization, and probably it will bog down the progress of the organization. Do you think these apprehensions are coming true?
I don't think they are coming true because it was agreed by both Pakistan and India. I know for sure that we had agreed and given assurance to the SCO that we will not bring our bilateral differences to the forum. I think the Indians have also refrained. I mean, it's one thing to meet or not to meet on the sidelines, but you can use coded language, to highlight an issue that is of concern or of importance to India, and vice versa. But I don't think it really matters. I think it's good that Pakistan and India refrain from bringing their own issues to this forum.
So in Goa, we saw bitter exchanges between the prime ministers, then of course between the foreign ministers, and then when Mr. Shehbaz Sharif went to participate, there were again veiled attacks, criticism of each other. So isn't this vitiating the environment?
Well, you see, I think India-Pakistan is a special case. It keeps on changing, and mostly for the worse. I think when Bilawal Bhutto Sahab was visiting Goa, the first few remarks or statements were good, but then the Indians sort of said certain things and then he responded, so it sort of vitiated the atmosphere. But it has always been like this between Pakistan and India. And there are many reasons for that.
We'll come to those. Yes.
Sir, Goa, Imran talked about that. I know SCO has a specialized, organ, body dealing with, terrorism. It is based in Tashkent. How do you see, both, member states, India and Pakistan, working together on matters relating to counter-terrorism in the region, while both are blaming each other?
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing to keep on blaming Pakistan, or we can blame the Indians, but the positive affirmative thing is to cooperate.
Yeah.
And what they have, the Regional Anti-Terrorism Center, I think it's in Tashkent, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this provides an opportunity for them to bring in their concerns and to work towards a positive trajectory. So I think we've spent a lot of time, in criticizing each other, but the positive thing would be to work together, and I think it should be doable if there is the will.
Absolutely correct. So it's doable if there is a will. But as we were discussing before, that there were exchanges between the foreign ministers and between the prime ministers. Now, there still some analysts believe that it could affect the progress of this organization in some way. How is China and Russia, how do they view this rift between the two countries taking the center stage?
I don't think that the rift has taken center stage as yet. I hope it doesn't.
As yet, you said.
As yet. But I think China and Russia, they are all interested in peace and stability in South Asia. Both countries have made contribution and advised both sides to show maturity and restraint. And I think it's time that we took on such advice.
Sir, since 2017, a number of changes have taken place, when the two countries joined the SCO together, particularly with regard to India joining a number of, security alliances or security dialogues or security cooperation. So how do you see Indian commitment to the SCO spirit, while it is also expanding its, security cooperation with other countries which are counterproductive to Chinese interests as well as Russian interests?
Yeah, this is something which the Indians describe as multi-alignment or, autonomy, exercise of autonomy. So it is easy to wish away these things by these two cliches, multi-alignment and strategic autonomy. So we'd buy oil from Iran and, whatever. The point is that there is, जैसे उर्दू में कहते हैं, कॉल फेल का तजाद है, इधर नज़र आता.
बिल्कुल.
So the point is that it's for the Indians to decide, basically. I mean, they think that they are a pole, the global south की leadership उनके पास है, and that means that they are aspiring for the big table.
Yeah.
Now, who is on the big table? I mean, those countries which are already big, they have their own, take Russia, China, US, they have their own problems. So they are all, जिसे कहते हैं खिंचे खिंचे से चल रहे हैं. So I don't think there is something for the Indians to really aspire for. At least if I were in Delhi, I would not really fancy this thought. But I think they want to basically benefit from the SCO to the extent that they can. And so there is value for the Indians insofar as the SCO is concerned.
सर इसी बात को मैं आगे ले जाना चाहता हूँ. काफ़ी जो एनालिस्ट हैं, राइटर्स हैं, दे आर रेजिंग क्वेश्चंस अबाउट द कमिटमेंट ऑफ इंडिया टू द SCO. अभी आप देखिए कि जो दिल्ली समिट थी उसमें इंडिया रिफ्यूज़ टू साइन, इट वाज इन न्यू दिल्ली, इंडिया रिफ्यूज़ टू साइन ECO's इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रेटजी, SCO इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट स्ट्रेटजी 2030 because of, they said these words, because of Chinese imprint in that. Then the document was approved by the remaining members. And then in the same summit declaration, member states affirmed their support for BRI, the member states. India abstained. Then Mr. Modi skipped the Astana summit. उनकी जो वजह थी उन्होंने बताई because of the parliamentary session, लेकिन 2 दिन के बाद he traveled to G7 summit के लिए, he went to Italy. Again, the analysts believe that he did not want to meet number 1 President Xi, and he did not want the direction which the SCO is taking. It wanted to maintain a distance with that. And then there was a summit in New Delhi, which at the last moment was converted into a virtual summit. So does this reflect the diminishing utility of SCO for India?
Well, you see, the Indians, they have to come to terms with the concept of cooperation. If India and Asia and South Asia in particular have to rise economically, then there has to be cooperation. Now, that cooperation is best pursued, I believe, under the BRI rubric. For instance, the CPEC. This was something that we have worked on, and there's this concept also of CPEC plus, or you can have other countries join. Now, the Indians have, and probably under the American tutelage, they have taken umbrage to the BRI. And therefore, anything on the BRI or related things which they call the Chinese text, they refuse to sign. It's a contradiction, basically, because I think most of the Asian states, especially the Eurasian, the Central Asian and the other states in the periphery, they believe in cooperation. And so I think the Indians, there is a dilemma for them. I think they have to sort of reconcile themselves because if they see the Chinese hand in everything, then of course China has a hand in everything.
Sir, coming back to Pakistan-India relations.
Riaz, just one question, sir, with your permission. How do you view India's China hypersensitivity, sir? It is aptly reflected in SCO. So I was reading there's a joke that if India was to become a permanent member of United Nations Security Council, it would exercise veto power every day. So how do you view this thing?
Yeah, I think the Chinese and the Indians, they started with saying Hindi Chinese bye-bye. This is prior to the 62 war. Then there were periods of ups and downs, and then there was a period also with the present leadership of China. I remember Hu Jintao and Modi had a number of meetings. There were these summit meetings, and there was the spirit, which was called the Wuhan spirit. With a lot of fanfare, there was good cooperation going. So I think I would not write off you are saying hypersensitivity, of course they are hypersensitive, but with a purpose. The purpose is to convince the US that they are on their side. But the final word has not yet been spoken. I see the Indians moving more center stage on relations with China. And the Chinese have also made some accommodation on the ground on the LAC in the north. So I think for the time being, given the Indo-Pacific and all that, and they are members of Quad, so they feel more secure with the US. But eventually they will have to come to terms with the Chinese politically.
But आपने सही कहा क्योंकि despite Galwan, despite everything, the trade between China and India presently, it is about $119 billion.
जी बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप. और अच्छा ये एक और interesting चीज़ है because the Chinese don't do it, and I think we see increasingly the Indians also refraining from mixing politics with trade. For instance, the Taiwanese have huge investments in mainland China. Japanese have huge investments in mainland China. The trade between China and Japan, although they are politically very cool, but is very robust. Even with the Americans, they have a good trade volume.
Exactly.
And the same with the Europeans. Despite this talk about protectionism and raising of tariffs and all that, but I think we are living in a world where we have to come to terms with the reality that you have to conduct yourself according to your interest, and of course the economic interests of states matter. And post Galwan, of course, we saw the Indians putting a ban on Chinese apps and some Chinese moving out, but of course they have come back to the stage. So I think the point is that politics is one thing, but to mix politics with trade and economic cooperation is a mistake.
So there's a message for everyone in what you have said. Riaz?
Sir, you were High Commissioner to India. And these days, people are talking about resuming dialogue with India, having good relations with India. My question is, does India have any incentive to improve relations with Pakistan?
I don't know whether they have any incentive. I think given the recent developments, say in Bangladesh, the situation with Nepal, and Maldives, and even with Bhutan, there should be a rethink in Delhi. There should be a rethink about the reality of the neighborhood first policy. You cannot have a situation where you are not in good terms with your neighbors and still hope and say that our neighborhood first policy. We are pursuing a neighborhood first policy. So I think it's unfortunate though. Of course, but Pakistan is a special case. Pakistan and India relations have been never been bright, despite periods of optimism and hope. But it's happened elsewhere also. I mean, especially now with this dramatic developments in Bangladesh, we see a major reversal for the Indians. And this is, I'm saying this not out of anger or zeal, because I think these things keep on changing. I mean, it's politics. So one day you can have a government that is pro-India, and then the next day you can have a government that is less warm to India. But what is really important is the core interests of countries. And I think the core interests of India, as of Pakistan, demand that both countries work together.
Sir, India says cross-border terrorism is its red line. What is our red line?
Well, Kashmir is our red line.
They have crossed it.
Yeah. I mean, you see, I mean, this is another aspect. As I say, times and weather keep on changing. So if today Pakistan is not is too involved in the internal affair, we have situations in KP, in Baluchistan, and our economy is not so good, and there is a political deadlock across the board, and every house and family is divided. So it's not a good situation. So, but this will not, this cannot be taken as something that is going to be there forever. You know, so I think we have to look at beyond this present state and look towards ourselves and our region with open eyes. And I say the same in terms of our relations with the Taliban in Afghanistan. I think it was a mistake not to recognize them, to set the agenda according to the world, although we had special relations with Afghanistan. And now it's gone down. Similarly with other countries like Iran. We signed the Iran-Pakistan pipeline and then sort of froze because we thought that this would upset the Americans. Although energy is Pakistan being energy deficient, we should have gone ahead and got the pipeline done. So it is a question basically of having that vision and the boldness to pursue that. Diplomacy is not just about statements and narratives. It is more about actually doing things, and that is how the world finally judges you.
Sir, but do we have the space to exercise this strategic autonomy, what you are talking about?
I'm not saying strategic autonomy. I'm saying that autonomy to the extent of looking after your own interests. I mean, what is diplomacy about? It's not about, these nice statements that we see from the Foreign Office and the leadership. It's basically trying to negotiate compromises. And I think a compromise on, for instance, the Iran pipeline was possible. It has a long history, but it was possible. Similarly, with the Taliban, we worked for the Taliban to come to power. I mean, I don't know, but I think this is what the message was, loud and clear. Now that they are in power, we have made them less than an observer at the OIC, and they have not forgiven us. So I think that we need to sort of relook the situation. And similarly with Iran, we came to a point where there was this missile exchange between Pakistan and Iran. It was unthinkable. With China, Of course, we have had the best of relations. I hope that they will continue in this direction. But with all these 4 countries, our relationship has deteriorated of late. And that, to my mind, is a very sad state of affairs, because that means that Pakistan has lost its regional relevance and strategic relevance.
Yes.
Very realistic,
Yes. No doubt about that.
answer. Sir, coming back to Pakistan, India again, what are the possibilities of resumption of dialogue with India? Realistically speaking, do you see options, any options available to us to initiate a dialogue with India in the current circumstances?
In the current circumstances, no. Because, I mean, from what we see in terms of the Indian statements, they are not interested. In fact, it is not only Modi, it was Shiv Shankar Menon, who was the National Security Advisor of Manmohan Singh, who had said, even when I was in Delhi, this was a long time ago, that if the Pakistanis is not interested, let them exist. And so they were not very keen. They had tried this dialogue channel for too long, and somehow when we promised things, we did not deliver. They had, from their perspective, a bad experience. Now, I'm not blaming Pakistan for all this, but that is the narrative that they have spun. For instance, Modi came to Pakistan in 2015, and we know what happened after that. So I think we have a unique situation where any effort towards improvement of relation with our neighbors is somehow cut short. And I want to say this in a forum, your forum, because I think it's time that we realized that we have done it for too long, that we have spun this story for too long, and it doesn't have any substance. But to answer your question, I don't see the Indians being interested in a dialogue with Pakistan. So the question, therefore, is what are our options?
Sir, the hawks among us, they support the current freeze in bilateral relations. Now, is this freeze affecting us particularly in trade, economy, or we are okay with it? Nothing bad is happening, or ठीक है, सब नहीं बोलते नहीं.
जी, हम तो ठीक है, हर सूरत में ठीक है. I think that's the going line, but the point is that नहीं, ठीक नहीं है. So, I mean, before going here, realistically, what are the options do we have, given the Indian public position that they are not interested in a dialogue after what they have done in 2019 in Kashmir? So they have solved Kashmir to their liking. And what have we done? हमने तजारत बंद कर दी, हाई कमिश्नर निकाल दिया, बाकी चीज़ें सब उनके साथ फ्रीज कर दी. So was it sensible? Maybe it was. Maybe it was sensible for a moment, but you don't stretch it for 5 to 6 years, right? So realistically, आपके पास क्या ऑप्शन है? और मेरा ख्याल में जो ऑप्शन है वो ये है, जो इस वक्त आपके अपने हाथ में है, is to hoping for the best, select a high commissioner and appoint him, or at least ask for his agreement and put the ball on the Indian court.
सर, हमारी फेस सेविंग फिर किधर से होगी? ये लोग पूछते हैं, फेस सेविंग कहाँ से होगी फिर?
वो फेस सेविंग तो हमने अपने लिए खुद मसला क्रिएट किया है ना. मतलब हमने हर एक चीज़ को एक सियासी मकसद के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं. For instance, I mean, if this government does something, then the opposition is going to take them on. And when you meet them individually, they would all say the same thing. They would all, I know, I mean, I have worked in the Kashmir committee as foreign secretary, and I know that everybody is interested in good relations with India. So I'm not advocating it, 96-97 में हमने शुरू किया था ये जो कंपोजिट डायलॉग है. It was drafted, the concept was made, and we had till now this composite dialogue with 8 items, and Kashmir was one of the 8. And I have participated, and have participated as the foreign secretary and as a member of the Pakistan delegation with other foreign secretaries in these foreign secretary level talks, and I know कि हम उधर कश्मीर में क्या बात करते थे. We would state our position and they would state their position. We would take 15 minutes and then move on to the next item. So this does not solve Jammu and Kashmir. I am not advocating that Jammu and Kashmir को हम जाने दें. We should maintain our position, which is based on international legitimacy. But as I said earlier, to mix politics with trade and economic cooperation is not a brilliant strategy.
सर कश्मीर पे भी मैं एक सवाल मज़ीद, चूँकि आपने जो गुफ्तगू की, जो आपने बैकग्राउंड बताया, उसके मुताबिक तो ये लग रहा है कि जी 5 अगस्त 2019 के बाद जो हमने डिसीजन लिए वो शायद ठीक नहीं थे. अगर वो डिसीजन ना लिए जाते तो आप फिर कौन सा ऑप्शन गवर्नमेंट को सजेस्ट करते इन द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ 5 अगस्त 2019?
नहीं, मैं ये कह रहा हूँ जी कि आपके डिसीजन शायद सही थे उस वक्त.
Okay.
There was this concern that there will be a massacre, and the Prime Minister at that time, the former Prime Minister, addressing the UN General Assembly, was alerting the world to a massacre in Kashmir.
Yeah.
Now there has been an increase in atrocities on the Kashmiri people. There is no question about it. But then the question is कि हमने कश्मीर के लिए क्या concrete किया? There was this whole thing about the Kashmir thing, which was a prelude to 1965 war. उसके बाद जो झड़पें होते रही उनसे. But हमने concretely क्या किया? We lost hundreds and thousands of Kashmiris lost to the Indian. So how did Kashmir benefit from Pakistan's policies? This is what I want to just air for your audience कि जी हमें इससे क्या फ़ायदा मिला. तो अगर आपकी यही पोजीशन है कि आपने 2021 में सीज़ फायर एक्सेप्ट किया, वो भी बैक चैनल टॉक से, और अभी भी बहुत से लोग हैं जो बैक चैनल की बात करते हैं, तो मैं उनको ये कहता हूँ कि जी बैक चैनल का क्या फ़ायदा अगर आपकी फ्रंट चैनल ज़ीरो है. इफ़ यू डोंट हैव अ फ्रंट चैनल देन व्हाट्स द यूज़ ऑफ अ बैक चैनल, बिकॉज दैट इज़ जस्ट सॉर्ट ऑफ फुड मेकिंग योरसेल्फ कि हमारी इंगेजमेंट है. इंगेजमेंट तो हमारी ट्रैक 2 में भी हिंदुस्तान से रहती है. So the question basically is that, and it's a fundamental question, where do we want to go from here? India, of course, with Modi in charge, has pursued policies which are not to our liking, which are not to the liking of the world, and foremostly which are not to the liking of the Christians and the Muslims of India. And it's a large number. But ये हमें मोदी साहब के 2014 में आने के बाद रियलाइज़ हुआ. 80 साल 90 साल से तो हम हिंदुस्तान पाकिस्तान हिंदू मुस्लिम का कॉन्सेप्ट हमने पेश किया. हमने कहा 2 नेशन थ्योरी है. तो ये अभी जो सूरत हाल है, have we recently woken up to the fact that India is a Hindu country? If they want to have a Hindu statecraft, so be it. It is their prerogative, as it is our prerogative to have a Muslim homeland. So I think ये सारा जो है ये कुछ थोड़ा सा misplaced है हमारा.
सर आपने जो बात की, to continue on that thing, इंडिया ने अपनी तरफ से कश्मीर का मसला हल कर दिया है, but we don't agree to it. We claim that we have our principal stand on Kashmir. UN resolutions की भी हम बात करते हैं, but that is not going to make any effect. That's not going to have any effect. It is not going to make India change its position. हमारा हम जितना मर्जी है बात करते रहें, हमारा जो नैरेटिव है दुनिया नहीं ले रही. So what are our realistic options on Kashmir?
जी, before I come to the realistic options, the point is that बहुत सारे तो नहीं, काफ़ी ऐसे issues हैं जो historical nature के हैं.
Sir.
Take the Taiwan issue, for instance. The Chinese wanted, they could have gotten Taiwan through the use of force, but they have played along. So Kashmir पे भी जो है, we have to show strategic patience, if I am allowed to use that phrase. We should keep our position as it is, because that provides us the legality and the legitimacy. ठीक है? और if I may say this, when I was in Delhi, I met late Sayyid Ali Shah Gilani a number of times. वो इलाज के लिए आते थे दिल्ली, तो उनके साथ मुलाकात हो जाती थी. तो मुझे ये डिस्टिंक्टली याद है, कम से कम 3 दफ़ा उन्होंने कहा कि जी पाकिस्तान को चाहिए कि कश्मीरियों को भूल जाए.
Oh.
आप अपना पहले ख्याल करें, पाकिस्तान को पहले मजबूत करें, आप हमारी फ़िक्र ना करें. These were the words of that patriot, Kashmiri patriot. So that is what it is. मतलब आप कि जब अपने मुल्क के अंदर हालात बेहतर हो जाएंगे तो फिर ये सारी चीज़ें फोर फ्रंट पे लाई जा सकती हैं. बट टू से दैट वी वांट टू सॉल्व कश्मीर इन अ प्रेजेंट स्टेट, I think that will only be a miracle.
That's striking the nail on the head, sir. Sir, couple of last. हाँ जी.
सर एक क्वेश्चन before you conclude. सर आपने प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी की जो सिग्नेचर पॉलिसी है, नेबरहुड फर्स्ट पॉलिसी, ऑब्वियसली ये था कि जी अच्छे कोऑपरेशन होगा रीजनल कंट्री के साथ, नेबरिंग कंट्री के साथ. हमने देखा क्या कि जी ज़्यादातर कन्फ्रंटेशनल पॉलिसीज़ पाकिस्तान के साथ, बांग्लादेश के साथ, श्रीलंका के साथ, नेपाल, और इसका सबका जो विक्टिम बना वो सार्क. तो सार्क का फ्यूचर आप रीजन में क्या देखते हैं?
सार्क का ये फ्यूचर तो you see, SAARC has to be all of South Asia together. BIMSTEC is not SAARC.
Yeah.
So the point is that you cannot have SAARC without India or without Pakistan. So Pakistan and India have to have some basic understanding to let this organization grow and go forward. But आपको मैं एक विशफुल solution पेश करता हूँ. Suppose, I mean this, as I said, it's a wishful solution. Suppose हिंदुस्तान का रीथिंक कर ले नेबरहुड फर्स्ट के ऊपर और पाकिस्तान के साथ एंगेजमेंट के लिए तैयार हो जाए. सार्क समिट होती है यहाँ पर समझे, और इंडियंस जो है वो पाकिस्तान इंडिया दे अग्री टू मीट, एंड बिफोर दैट दे मैंडेट देयर फॉरेन मिनिस्ट्रीज कि जी वो एक विजन फॉर द फ्यूचर चार्ट करें, कॉमन विजन फॉर द फ्यूचर with a plan of action. So that could be a good starting point for the bilateral relationship. Because, I mean, having worked with India in Delhi and as Foreign Secretary, I know that there are a number of understandings that we have reached with the Indians. जितना हमने उनके साथ 70 साल से ज़्यादा हो गए काम किया है. For instance, take these prisoners, ये फिशरमैन वगैरह के इशू जो है, इस पे भी हमारी जॉइंट रिकमेंडेशंस हैं जुडिशल कमीशन की. टेक द न्यूक्लियर थिंग, उसके ऊपर भी 1-2 एग्रीमेंट है और किए जा सकते हैं. कन्वेंशनल फोर्सेस पे हमारे बॉर्डर सिक्योरिटी रेंजर्स वाले आपस में मिलते हैं और मैरीटाइम सिक्योरिटी और इंडियन कोस्ट गार्ड मिलता है. ठीक है. ट्रेड पे व्हेन आई वाज द हाई कमिश्नर, अपना ये खुरम दस्तगीर साहब वाज द ट्रेड मिनिस्टर, ही केम एंड वी ऑलमोस्ट साइंड अ नॉन डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी मार्केट एक्सेस एग्रीमेंट. इट वाज एग्रीड दैट दिस विल बी साइंड नेक्स्ट वीक इन लाहौर. वो दिन आज तक नहीं आया और उसके बावजूद ट्रेड पाकिस्तान और हिंदुस्तान की चल रही है. सो व्हाट आई मीन टू से इज़ कि अच्छा फिर वीज़ा लिबरलाइजेशन एग्रीमेंट है. So all that needs to be done is to activate these things, right? And we've got now, alhamdulillah, a ceasefire on the LOC. But that still doesn't solve the Kashmir issue. कश्मीर में आपको पता है मुजफ्फराबाद श्रीनगर बसेस का सिलसिला था, ये था. अगर हम पाकिस्तान को इतनी तरक्की देते हैं और आज़ाद कश्मीर को इतनी तरक्की देते हैं कि कश्मीरियों की सेंटर ऑफ ग्रेविटी इस तरफ हो जाती है बनिस्बत दिल्ली के, wouldn't that be better?
You were talking about LOC, 3 साल हो गए हैं इसको, बट इससे आगे नहीं बात बढ़ी. There are no diplomatic engagement कोई नहीं है, trade is minimum, there's declining civil society engagement, communication channels are closed. What did we get out of this ceasefire at LOC?
No, the ceasefire was good. I think it had its intrinsic merit. There were, as you know, a lot of people getting killed, the civilians as well. So I think it's been a good step. It is another thing that was achieved through the back channel. I believe that, I don't know for sure, but कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि back channel exist करता है या करता था. But अगर back channel exist करता है या करता था और हमारे attractive engagement चल रही है हिंदुस्तान के साथ, तो फिर it's possible to at least get some traction on walking back to 2019 or pre-2019 situation. Now, our expectation that they will take steps for revocation of Article 370 कि वो जो उन्होंने revoke किया उसको वापस करेंगे और जम्मू कश्मीर की statehood को restore करेंगे. It's possible, but you cannot hold your own actions, options hostage to another country. As I said, unilaterally, अगर आप High Commissioner कि दोबारा अपॉइंटमेंट पे किसी को सिलेक्ट करके उसका एग्रीमेंट मांगते हैं, तो फिर एक नोशनली एक स्टेप आपने शुरू किया होगा. And it will be for the Indians to accept or reject it, and it will be mighty difficult for them to reject it. But once you have a High Commissioner, then things will take a course of their own.
So one final question. US-China tensions, are they casting negative shadow on Pakistan-India relations?
Of course they are. US-China means basically irrespective, both Democrats and Republicans equally. They are casting a negative shadow. Because, you see, for plenty of years, Pakistan-US relations were excellent. I mean, excellent in the sense that the Indians were worried about it. Now it's suddenly changed. So now the Americans talk of a multi-generational partnership with India. And you know how close they have become and what technologies and equipment they are supplying and producing. So over a period of time, the Indians will not even look at their poor neighbors, because even today in the US, all the top positions, even in Silicon Valley and others, all the CEOs or most of the CEOs are of Indian origin. So, we've got to live to the rhythm of the present day, not of the past. And that's why I say that we got to sort of rethink our position and start making Pakistan regionally and then globally more strategically relevant.
Thank you very much, sir. Khawateen Hazrat, आपने हमारा program देखा. We believe that for those interested in Pakistan-India relations, this program should be fulfilling. We are grateful to Mr. Salman Bashir for being with us. We will definitely invite him again. We believe that he has a lot of experience, a lot of information to share with us and with our viewers. Thank you, and we'll be back.